Hi everyone, Ben here, personal trainer at the Campus Rec Center. In today's video, we're going to be going over how to perform squats. Okay, so the first thing I like to think about when we're talking about squats is actually going to be our foot position. For most people, I recommend starting out with your feet just about shoulder width apart and taking your toes and turning them out just a little bit. Once we have our foot stance down and our foot position down, what I like to go ahead and do is imagine that I'm taking my feet and I'm kind of screwing and rotating them into the ground. Once we are in this position, basically what we're going to want to do is we're going to want to inhale. We're going to inhale, breathe into our belly, and keep our core nice and tight. And then basically we're going to shift our hips back and sit down into the squat just like this, allowing us to come until we are about a little bit lower or just about 90 degrees. Then from here, we're going to go ahead and exhale as we come up to the top, exhale, squeeze our glutes. Putting it all together, it'll look just like this. Something else you want to keep in mind when it comes down to doing a squat is when you are actually squatting down, you want to go ahead and try to keep your back as straight as possible. So basically, when you're squatting down, you want to make sure you're not hyperextending your spine. Sometimes this happens if you have like tight hips or hamstrings. Sometimes your low back might want to arch, just like so. The way we can correct that is just by basically keeping our core nice and tight. When we inhale, we want to go ahead and take a big breath in, and we also want to exhale slightly, and we want to go ahead and brace our core. And basically, if you could imagine if someone was going to come up and tap you on the stomach, you don't want your belly to be soft. You want to keep it nice and firm. If you could keep your core nice and braced as you're doing the squat, that, most of the time, will correct that issue of the low back trying to arch. Kind of related to that is some folks, when they're squatting down, they might have a tendency to want to look up, and this will kind of do the same thing to the low back. It will kind of take your spine out of alignment, and it will shift a lot of stress on your low back. If you could kind of pick an object to stare at on the wall in front of you, just keep your eyes on that position. Keep your eye on the prize right as you're doing the exercise. That would help basically keep your spine neutral and your head neutral as well. And that'll be a lot more sturdy position for your squats. Those are two of the most common errors I usually see. But some other ones I want to go ahead and address in this video are going to be when folks are squatting down, a lot of times when they're coming back up on the positive portion of the rep, their knees will want to cave inward. And their knees will kind of come in as they're coming up to the top. As you're coming up from this portion, you got to consciously think about driving your knees out, pushing your knees out, and that will, 99.9% of the time, that will correct the error of the knees coming in. And this is something that you really want to address at the beginning with body weight before you start adding load, before you start adding weight and reps, because something as simple as just a slight tweak in form could put a lot of stress on the knee joint, and it could lead, unfortunately, to injury, and we don't want that. Kind of related to that is when folks will come down into the squat, a lot of times they will kind of come up on their toes and do the squat like that. A way to combat this or correct this error, again, is taking your feet, planting them into the ground, and kind of externally rotating your feet, so that way your feet are screwed into the ground. Imagine like your body weight, you wanted to try to distribute that in the middle of your foot. So you don't want to have all your body weight too far on your toes, because you might end up like dipping forward into the squat, and you don't want to be way back over here in your heels, because if you come down into the squat and your weight is all the way back in the heels, you might drop the weight, and we don't want that to happen either. So once you have practiced your squats with just regular body weight, and you feel comfortable and you feel confident in doing squats with your body weight, then and only then would I recommend adding some weight and progressing into more advanced techniques and different ways of doing the squat. With that being said, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a couple different ways you can add load and increase the difficulty of the squat. So we're going to be doing dumbbell goblet squats, and the way we're going to set this exercise up is basically the same exact way we set up the body weight squat, except of course this time we're going to be holding the dumbbell. So we're going to lift the weight up. Usually I like to go ahead and take my palms, place them right underneath the dumbbell, get a nice solid grip here. We're also going to want to go ahead and take the dumbbell, keep it close to our upper chest, not all the way up to our throat necessarily, but just right toward the top of our upper chest. And you can take your elbows, kind of bring them in, and kind of lock in the position of the dumbbell right here. And basically we're gonna go ahead and do the same exact thing we did with the regular squat. Again, feet are already in the position, rooted down into the ground. From here, I'm gonna inhale, and then come down, and then up. Just like this. All right, and if you are super duper strong and doing a goblet squat with one dumbbell is way too easy, then you can always take two dumbbells and pop them right up on your shoulders. Do the same thing here. Just like that. Okay, next up we have the barbell back squat. When we're setting up the barbell squat, we just want to adjust the rack height so that way when we walk up to the bar and we get it underneath the bar, we can comfortably find a good position for the bar on our upper back. Sometimes if this is high up, you're not going to be able to fit underneath the bar. So just take the time to kind of move this position around so that way, or not move this position, move this doohickey around, move this safety rack around, so that way when you walk up to the bar, you can just get right underneath it and you'll be in a good position. When I'm coming up to the bar, the first thing I like to think about is actually my hand placement. So there's some rings right here on the bar. Usually I take my index fingers and I like to go ahead and wrap them around the ring. Usually that's a pretty good, comfortable position for me. Then from there, once we got our hand position locked in, we're simply going to walk underneath the bar, and we're going to want to find a good, comfortable position for the bar to be on our upper back. You don't want the bar up on your neck, and you don't want it all the way down on your lower traps, but somewhere, if you kind of hunt around, you can find kind of a shelf on your upper back, rear delt area. And then from there, we're basically going to go ahead and lift up. We're going to want to take, one or two steps back, then get into our good squat position here. Same squat position we used with the regular body weight squats. We're going to want to take our feet just about shoulder width apart, and then we're going to do basically the same exact thing we did for the body weight squat. We're going to breathe in, inhale, brace the core, and then come down until about 90 degrees, and then just like that. Then once we're all finished, we're simply going to walk up to the bar and lower the weight down. Some ways you could also make the squat more difficult is if you just adjust the tempo. So go a little bit slower on the way down, a little bit faster on the way up. That's one way you can increase the difficulty. Also, just simply adding more weight, adding more reps. Both of those are great options to increase the difficulty of the exercise. When you're doing the squat, if you find that you cannot go all the way down to 90 degrees, then what you could also do is a box squat. If you grab yourself a bench or a box or something just about this height, even a chair could work, then you're in business. So basically, we're going to set this up just like we would a regular squat, except of course we're going to have the bench or the chair right behind us, and we're going to sit down into the squat just like how we would like regular, except this time we are not going to, of course, go all the way down to parallel. We're just going to go ahead and stop right where the chair or the bench is. And then from there, we're just going to go ahead and come right up to the top. Something you want to keep in mind with this exercise is that when you sit down, like this, you don't want to relax and take all the pressure off your muscles. You still want to make sure you're keeping your legs and your core engaged. So when you come down, still right now, even though I'm sitting, legs and core are still engaged, and exhale to the top. And you could do this with the body weight squats, just like how I was doing right here. You could also do it with the dumbbell out in front, or you could even do it with the barbell squats. You could have the bar on your back and set it back, so that when you're squatting down, you were hitting the bench. And that's pretty much it when it comes down to the squats. Really, really simple exercise, but as you can see, there's a lot that really goes into the technique. But the more you practice, the better you'll get, So just keep it up, keep practicing those squats, and I'll see you next time.